Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We are pleased to bring you together today for this 30-minute webinar dedicated to dashboard performance on Tableau. Today, we are going to talk about business intelligence performance and how to optimize your dashboards. As we all know, Tableau is probably the most popular BI tool. It allows users to do more than just simple visualization. It is now possible to add more and more fields of formulas and calculation, but your dashboard's response time can suffer from it and become very, very slow. How to identify your dashboard's areas of improvement and how to fix them. This is what we are going to see in this webinar. First point, how to audit a Tableau dashboard. Then we will look at what are the fundamentals to respect. And finally, we will deep dive into the big data use case. Of course, you can use the Q&A box and we will answer the questions at the end of the session. To start this webinar, I'm pleased to introduce you to Nicolas Corchia, co-founder and Chief Operation Officer of Indexima, and Julien Nordman, UK Director at Midral. Guys, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Laetitia, for this introduction. I wanted to essentially start by very briefly telling you a bit more about Midral and how we fit in the data space. And I think Indexima will do that just after me. So about Midral, we are a consultancy firm that specializes in data analytics. So essentially helping people solve business problems by leveraging data. All that we do revolves around data, and we built our business so that we can support our customers' project at every stage of the data value chain, from data preparation all the way to the data visualization stage. And of course, if we have various expertise and partners that we leverage along the way, well, depending on where you are in your analytical journey, today we are going to focus on the data visualization side with Tableau Software and our partner Indexima for addressing the world of big data. But I will, of course, let him introduce himself. Nicolas, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Julien. Before we dig in, let me introduce Indexima very quickly. Indexima is a software that solves the #1 pain that all BI users face when working on big data sets: dashboard loading time. That is a very big picture. Now I will explain how we position ourselves to do that. Because we are not a new BI tool like Tableau, Power BI, and so on, neither a data source. We are a complement to them, a transparent middleware that gets plugged between the two in order to accelerate dashboard response time. And when I say accelerate, I really mean accelerate. With us interacting with a multi-billions of rows data set is only a matter of milliseconds. We use machine learning algorithms and AI to build an engine capable of overperforming in big data context. So, as I am sure you understood, our goal is simple. We accelerate and simplify BI on big data. So it was very natural for Julien and I to co-host a webinar about perf on Tableau Software.
Thank you, Nicolas. So as Nicolas just mentioned, we are going to talk about performance in a Tableau Software environment, and more specifically about a plug-and-play solution that we have created to monitor its performance. But just before we talk about that tool, I first want to address why it is important, why it is critical for you to audit your Tableau environment, and why addressing performance issues should be a priority to you. Business intelligence, and more specifically data analytics, is, as you know, intended to present information in a way that drives action so that your audience can make the right business decisions. So when you're aware of that, you understand how important the delivery is, how a cumbersome or slow process for accessing data can generate frustration, can reduce user adoption, and ultimately prevent the right action to be taken in time. So monitoring performance will essentially allow you to prevent that. You'll improve your overall analytical process by making it more agile. You'll do that by identifying which dashboards are the most relevant in your organization, and of course, how to improve them. So as a consultancy firm, we see a lot of different projects, but one that always seems to come back, and that regardless of the industry, the department, or size of the company, is fixing performance issues on dashboard. And to solve that, we usually follow this 5-step process that we wanted to share with you today. And of course, the first one is that you're going to be collecting data from your server and desktop environments. You're then going to structure that data so that you can analyze it and understand what is happening. And finally, of course, you're going to define a plan of action. And to help in this process, we created, once again, this plug and play solution that takes the form of 2 dashboards. Data performance for Tableau Server to get insight on how your Tableau Server is being used, and data performance for Tableau Desktop to understand what is happening at the dashboard level, like the structural and design aspects of things. And once you're connected to your data, the 2 dashboard will automatically be generated with various KPIs, like the correlation between display time and the number of views, information on the use of filters and parameters or formulas complexity, and so on. But enough with the description. The goal obviously today is to show you a demo so that you can see all that in action. So for that, we are going to take the role of an analyst who is going to audit a Tableau environment, and together we are going to try to find insight on how to optimize its performance. So for this demo, in the sake of time, we have already connected to the data, and together we are going to be looking at the 2 dashboards and see what we can learn from them. So let me switch and have access to that first dashboard. So as mentioned, we are connected to our data already, and we are looking actually at our server environment with our audit solution for Tableau Server. And this is great for getting an overview of what is going on within your organization and essentially help us identify what to address and where to prioritize. So as you can see here, there is a number of views displaying various KPIs. On the left here, we have a graph showing all the existing dashboards based on their popularity and their display performance. And on the right here, we have a more granular view with KPIs about users or how dashboards are being used across the day, the week, and so on. But let's go back for a second to the left side of the dashboard and see what we can find out. So we have on the y-axis the average time a page takes to load, and on the x-axis how many times a dashboard has been used. So naturally, we are going to go on the top right corner, as this is where we're going to find the most popular dashboards within the organization, but also, of course, the one that takes the longest to load. And we can see straight away here that there is an outlier, which makes me want to investigate. So we're going to go and click on it. And what we're going to see here is that all the other views have updated so that we can get specific information about that, specific dashboards. So we're going to see, for instance, who's using it the most, who is experiencing the biggest loading issues, and some other information like which day of the week this dashboard is being used the most, and those type of information. And of course, this can trigger a number of actions, like maybe having a chat with the relevant people, or maybe understanding what other queries are being performed at the same time, which could possibly have an impact on this performance. But now that I know which dashboard is the most relevant or the one that we should be spending our time with, I really want to understand how this dashboard has been built, because we know that this is where most of the issues originates from. So let's launch the other solution so that we can see what is happening at a dashboard level. So we've switched to the audit solution for Tableau Desktop. And again, we are connected to the data, so we don't have to do it during the demo. And we are going to be focusing on the dashboard that we previously identified. As you can see, we have a number of KPIs at our disposal to try and understand how this dashboard was structured, how it was designed, and this will help us identify areas of improvement. The way this visualization works is that we have a top-down approach, meaning that we have more general or high-level KPIs at the top, like the number of data sources, the number of filters, parameters being used. And the more you scroll down, the more detailed information you're going to get. So we can see here a top 10 of the most complex formula used here, with the ability to get a preview of it. So obviously you can see here how complicated or long this formula is. And if we continue, we can get some insights on the most used functions. So where, for instance, here you see the function now, the months. So a lot to do with dates. And this could trigger some questions around, for instance, data modeling to find out whether it is optimized for these type of queries. So obviously there's a lot going on. There's a lot of areas to investigate, but for the sake of this demo, let's try to focus on one or two. For instance, if we go back up, we know, because it's one of Tableau best practices, that the number of filters and parameters that are being used within the visualization can have a large impact on the dashboard performance. And here you see there is 113 column, 190 calculated field, 27 parameters, and this is quite a lot. And what you can also notice right away is that a number of them are not being used. So obviously this is something that could be easily fixed, because it adds a layer of complexity to the dashboard, which doesn't need to be there. We could also go one layer down, or maybe deep dive into how the sheets are being used. And when we look at, for instance, this dashboard overview, the first thing that we notice is that it's based on 24 sheets. And this number is obviously quite high. Tableau, for instance, recommend around 7 or 10 sheets as a best practice. Another area that gets my attention here is that orange color on the left of the viz, where it says filter. That could indicate that there's an overusage of filtering, which could also indicate that my dashboard could probably be optimized in that regards. Once again, as mentioned, you can of course go much further in the analysis, but the idea here was to give you an overview and help you prioritize, which I hope you saw today. One aspect that we haven't really discussed yet is the huge impact on the performance of your Tableau environment that the volume of data can have, and the speed at which this can be accessed to. For instance, here, as we can see, we're connected to 2 data sources, which approximately have 500 million rows and another 50 million rows. And based on this volume of data, we can, as we showed you today, perform a number of actions to improve the performance. But at one point, especially when we talk about big data volume, fixes at a dashboard level won't be enough. And you'll need to address how to deal with large volume of data. And this is exactly why we work with partners like Indexima But of course, I will leave Nicolas tell us about how he can help in this area. Nicolas, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Julien. I'm a big fan of your dashboard about Tableau server and Tableau desktop performance. And you have so many best practices to share about this topic. Personally, I love it. In order to go on and to reflect on this audit, it's important, as you said, to add the notion of volumetry. The impact of all these complex compute level of details, LODs, recursive calculation, filters, graphs, will increase exponentially with volumetry. It's quite easy to understand. I mean, doing BI is about counting, aggregating data. For example, if you are a retailer, you might want to monitor the number of customers without loyalty cards from year to year. If you are a bank, you would probably like to count the amount of transactions between customers type A and client type B. But let's make a childish analogy. At the very end, doing BI, it's a bit like counting Lego. For example, let's try to find the number of size 8 blue brick in a pile of Lego. This is analytics. When you are looking at a small pile, it's very easy to count. Just push a few bricks away and count them in your head. This is feasible because you are operating on what we name small data. Now, let's take a look at big data. With our Lego example, this big data is when the Lego pile is no longer a nice and small pile, but rather an ocean of Lego. If I ask you to count the blue brick again, all of a sudden, it becomes much more complicated. And it's clearly impossible for a human being. For Tableau, over a certain dataset size, the complexity is the same. And counting can take time, sometimes a lot of time. And we are talking about minutes, even hours of wait before getting an answer. We all faced, at least once, this type of pop-up windows. At this point, some of you must think, wait a second, Nicolas, we are in 2021. We have been doing BI on large volumes of data for a while now. You are right. It is something most of you do these days. But you spend a lot of time and effort to do so. And the solutions we have right now are not agile. Looking back at our Lego Blue Brick example, the way we would deal with this big data is the following. First, you will need to sort the bricks, create new small piles of colors. Then you will focus only on the blue piles. And then finally back on those pile of small data, it is possible to count the number of blue bricks in each pile. Finally, merging the results. This is called data preparation. Your data engineers take care of that time-consuming task. This is a famous ETL chain, extract, load, transform, which is often in reality an ETL, TL, 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 and so on. At the end of the day, you feel like things are working well because your dashboard can be fast doing that. But what happens when you want to do another scan of the same ocean of Lego? but on the red bricks or size 4 bricks. Well, you start over. You call your data engineering team and you ask them for a new ETL chain. You enter another round of back and forth and you realize this is not a scalable way of dealing with a problem. Here you have so many project management and duplication of data and efforts. What we do at Indexima is to replace your team of data engineers with machine learning algorithms, and everything becomes easier. No more slides. Let's jump straight into a live demo. For this demo, I'm going to use Tableau and an open source data set of New York taxi rides. I decided to copy the data into Snowflake, that very fast cloud engine. That's a little over 5 billion rows. So it's a pretty big data set. I choose not to transform my data. So to make it clear, there has been literally 0 minutes spent on data preparation. Finally, in order to analyze the ride by geography, I added an associated table with GPS coordinates. My model is therefore a fairly simple store. This last point is important because it means that I'm doing joins on billions of rows using GPS coordinates as the key join. Those who speak SQL will understand. I open Tableau, which is connected live to my data in Snowflake. It's a double extra large cluster in Snowflake. It means it's very expensive. We are expecting fast results at this price. Let's see together what it means in Tableau. So I get connected to Snowflake. I do not share my password. Let's have a look at this data. First connection. So here we are talking about 5 billion rows. It's huge. Let's have a look at the overview of the data. The first load is very fast. Thanks a lot. Now let's have some interaction with the dashboard. And what we can see together is that the interaction in the dashboard take way longer than expected, from 10 seconds to 30 seconds per interaction. And here it's about $64 an hour. So even though we are dealing with big data, that is not a speed that can suit the behavior of someone interacting hundreds of times a day with a dashboard. And keep in mind, we are paying $64 per hour to get these results. The performance cost ratio is definitely not good. And of course, if the data volume increases, the response time will also increase. Let's have a look. If I put Indexima in between Tableau and Snowflake, I will do that very easily inside Tableau. Just look. I make a switch and I change my Snowflake data source by Indexima. Replace data source, Snowflake to Indexima. Do not share my password. First connection. And that's it. I click on overview and now my Tableau dashboard is no more interacting with Snowflake, but with Indexima instead. At the very beginning, response time are kind of the same because we need the machine learning algorithms to understand the way we use data. But don't worry, this step is gonna be fast. And we will soon be able to enjoy an incredibly fast dashboard. Okay, maybe I will have my hand in Tableau. Okay, I can interact anymore. Thanks.
Oh, good.
After a couple of minutes, the machine learning algorithms will do their job. So let's interact a few times. So here, as you can see inside Indexima monitor, we can see that the response time is still the same. I mean, in between 10 seconds to 16 seconds. Let's do it one more. And after that, let's ask the machine learning algorithms to do the magic. I go inside Indexima web interface, and I just click on that magic button, last day tuning. Here, I am telling to Indexima AI to optimize the table. I am doing here what your best data engineers could have done in a few days, a few weeks, in just one single click. And a few seconds later, we will see what is the result of this optimization. Let's wait a few seconds more. Okay. Now let's have a look at interactions. This is incredibly fast. Look at the response time. Whatever the interaction I would do, we have here very fast access to the data, 12 seconds, 19 seconds, 12 milliseconds, sorry, 19 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, 57 milliseconds, and so on. I think there is a problem on my computer. That's the day, of course. This dashboard, which was used to be slow, up to 30 seconds for each interaction, is now really fast. Let's make it again. Okay, it's fast, you can see it. If we look at the SQL queries on the engine, it's about only tens of milliseconds instead of tens of seconds. And you know what? Your $64 an hour Snowflake cluster is now sleeping. No more need to pay for it. The speed you are witnessing is achieved with only $4 an hour Indexima cluster. This is 15 times less expensive and 1,000 times faster. And cherry on top, as you saw, Indexima is completely transparent for the business users. The user still uses Tableau as usual and doesn't even realize it's Indexima processing the queries. So that's it. You got a glimpse of what we do. As I said in the beginning, we speed up BI dashboards for big data use cases. With Indexima, say bye-bye to data prep and enjoy zero time to data. What do you think of that, Julien?
Thank you very much, Nicolas. I think it was a very interesting demo, and I know for a fact with the customer that we've worked together on, that that can definitely have speed up everything with even a larger volume of data. So thank you for this demo. Very briefly, I'm conscious about the time, so just to quickly summarize what we've seen today. So during this webinar, we obviously discussed how to focus on the most important dashboard to make optimization, how to better optimize your environment using the server audit solution, how to quickly identify a performance area of improvements on a specific dashboard, essentially without using any external panel expertise. And finally, with Nicolas, how to deal with big data. So I'm not sure about the time that we have left. Maybe we can take a question, one question each, and we'll go back to privately to people on a one-on-one basis. Laetitia, can you maybe highlight one or two questions that you wanted to answer?
We've got a good bunch of questions and I can see some additionals coming. So please feel free to put your questions on the Q&A box and we will make sure to answer these after all. Just a question for each of you. The first one, Julien, I think this is for you. The question is pretty simple on the usage of the plug and play audit that you've shared with us today. The question says, who can audit the performance of dashboards? What would be your recommendation here?
I mean, so the goal behind the audit solution that we've showed you today is that everyone can use it. It's, as I mentioned, a plug and play. We've done the heavy lifting by identifying and building the different KPIs. And now you just have to connect it to the data and make the analysis. You could also actually, publish it on your server for you to continuously monitor that environment. However, the idea is not just to install that at our customer and maybe leave, but also to kind of provide guidance and support on what to do and how to do it. So, and of course, today we showed you a quick tour, but you can of course go much further in details. And this is kind of a discussion that we would have with the relevant person and move from there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Julien. And the second and last one for you, Nicolas. It's a question of a time of implementation. How long does it take to implement Indexima? And does it have any impact on existing systems?
Well, Indexima can be set up in a few minutes if you are talking in the cloud, for example, because we are available on the major marketplaces. After that, you just have to plug your data inside Indexima and then to plug your Tableau dashboard or Power BI dashboard on top of it. The machine learning algorithms will do their magic in a few minutes.
Straightforward. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you very much, Julien. Thank you very much, Nicolas. This has been great.
Thank you, everyone.
Sharing those insights today. We are more than top of the hour, so sorry for the delay. We will make sure that all of you receive the recorded webinar within the 84 hours, and we remain at your disposal to answer any additional questions afterwards. I think, Julien, you've got a slide for it especially.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, of course, we're available to have a conversation around data and potentially how we can help. We've also put online a help desk, a free help desk hour where you could just register and book a time with our consultant if you want to discuss any topic around performance. And of course, Nicolas and I can make ourselves available during that hour on top of the consultant if you want to discuss with us. So yeah, thank you again to everyone who joined this webinar, and hopefully we'll